This show is about your life, how to make it better, how to make more from it, how to love deeper, how to share it with others. This journey is about connection to your dreams, with topics centering on love, money, sexuality, and energy that unites it all. The show will change your life. For years, I've coached people in easy-to-learn skills, and I've seen incredible changes. I'm here to teach you those skills as a coach and hopefully a new friend. Hi, I'm Kyle. Come along with me as you move along your path of life success. Welcome to the Kyle Phoenix Show.
Race and culture. This one is so big that it's going to be really small. Will our families, friends create problems for our marriage or partnership because of our racial, cultural differences? Will our customs and beliefs create conflicts for us? Will any of this be too much for us to overcome? Wow, this is big. Okay, this is big. This is lots of things to kind of juggle in here as I look at my thoughts and so many elements. Okay, so first let's look at that. Let's look at men of color. Should have a picture of a man of color. Okay, there we go. There, a picture of a man of color. Okay, no more picture. Okay, so men of color dating other men. What, to some degree, naturally might happen, and I'll explain why this may naturally happen, is you start dating outside of your race. You start dating outside of your culture. One of the reasons this naturally happens is because our racial specificity to dating within one race or culture, prescription to do so, comes from miscegenation laws, comes from the possibility of reproduction with other races. Let's start first in America, and then if we expand it kind of globally, we can look at that in kind of a cultural, tribal way. So when we think about racial mixing or cultural mixing, in America, it has a different context for at least 400 or 500 years. In the world, it has another context as well. If you're in the same-sex relationships, you're kind of in and outside of that context at the exact same time. You're in that context because you're one race or another. There are actually only being 4 races on the planet. Everything else is cultural. But you're outside of that race, or what do we want to call it, that race definition in relationship to relationship and sexuality, because if you're with the same gender person, you ain't going to have a baby. No matter how hard you try, no matter how many of my videos you use over and over and over again to find different parts of one another, different orifices, different places, different areas to touch and to engage with, your A's will always be A's with another A. You need a B to create an A or a B. So you're never going to procreate. This may mean that you have a broader dating choice than your parents did, than your siblings do, than any of your friends do. Because why would you hold into one context? Let's kind of get some general numbers in here. If we're thinking that same-sex homosexual people, same-gender-loving people, are 10, I like to give it a little bit more, 10-20% of just America, 300 million people. About 60 million people, maybe 5% of that is actually comfortably out, so that's maybe 15 million or so. And then if you break down from that in America, that only 12 to about 20% are people of color that are black. Let's start with African Americans, are black. So we're saying 15 million, 10% of that, 1.5 million. So about 1 million people, let's say in your age range, spread out across America. not out, comfortable, attracted to, not attracted to, your type, not your type, all of those different things that may come into the element, your numbers start reducing. You've gone down from possibly 15 people to 1 out of every 15 people. So you might have to look at, I might have to go outside of my race, I might have to go outside of my culture. My race would actually be if I'm going to somebody white, or if I'm going to somebody of Asian descent, or if something is happening, I'm looking at Aboriginal people, or Inuit people, Aboriginal and Inuit people being the same thing, or Native Americans, the half dozen of them that are still left in America, that those are the 3 groups. You have Caucasian, Negroid, Mongoloid, and Aboriginal. So there are only 4 racial groups. You might find yourself outside of your cultural group. You might not be able to with a black person. You might end up with a Latin person. You might end up with a Jewish person. So you might have crossed race and culture. And part of happiness, part of finding happiness, part of finding love and compatibility may require going outside. And this is a great freedom that heterosexuals generally don't have, because generally around this area, heterosexuals are more constrained racially and culturally than people engage in same-sex relationships. So same-sex relationships, because you've already crossed one line, you might as well cross all the others. So you might as well cross the racial and cultural line. But this is going to present some unique challenges. It's going to present challenges of 2 cultures behind either one of you that may not historically get along, may not like each other, may not understand each other, there might be language barriers. You might have to learn Spanish. I've had to, in the past, learn Spanish, I've had to learn Turkish, I've had to learn Italian, because when you date outside of your culture, there's a whole different world there. When you date outside of your race, there's a whole different world there. And it's a great world to experience, because we shouldn't be so narrow in our experiencing of all of the human beings on Earth, all of the cultures or varying differences or variances of humanity on Earth. But it also challenges that when we're going to talk about different things, certain things are going to mean different things to us differently. Certain things are going to offend me that don't offend you. You're going to find some things in my culture that aren't funny, and some things in my culture that are funny, you're not going to see. You're going to consider us insane for finding funny. So those are things that we need to negotiate, that we need to talk about. So even though this one is actually 3 questions, when you reference back to the first part of the video, it's really kind of heavy to actually have this discussion. What does it mean that we come from 2 different places? We come from 2 different mindsets. Races and cultures have different mindsets based upon their people historically. So what does that mean? How do we balance that out? So that's some great discussions to look at around race and culture and how we exchange into each other's culture. Who do we spend Christmas with? Do we celebrate Hanukkah? Do we celebrate Cinco de Mayo? What do we celebrate? Because you might celebrate one thing. Actually, you get enough of a racial, cultural mix together, and you're going to be having a party every week. And we need to discuss if one of us is not a partier, and your culture brings more activities and functions into stuff that we're expected to be at, or that you're going off to, that kind of changes some of the elements in our relationship. Maybe if you have to commit to being different things. Maybe if there's different kinds of foods you don't eat, different things that you observe religiously because of your race or your culture. So those are things that you want to talk about in your kind of questioning time in dating and in getting together in a couple. And these are some really, really powerful and great questions that hopefully when people say, how can you have a 90-day sex rule, this is what you fill the 90 days with, these discussions. I guarantee you that if you go through this series of 9 with these questions, you'll either really be ready to have sex with that person, or you'll really not be ready to have sex with that person after a couple of months of doing this.